Welcome to Scene by Scene, where we walk you through the movie-making process. This is Bree Holtzman.
This is Abby.
And this is Thomas.
Today we will be discussing the history of sound and sound effects in movies, as well as the pioneers who changed everything how we think of sound today. So, before sound effects and before sound in general in movies, the movies were generally just silent. Other than silent movies, because they got pretty boring, just because you're just watching something, they would have like music, but live music. So an actual person would be playing like the guitar to emphasize what's happening on the screen.
It doesn't seem like it would work very well.
I mean, they're just sitting in the theater and they'll just be strumming along or playing like the flute or something.
Think of like a musical where there's like an orchestra behind
it. Like a play.
Okay.
But it's just to
it's just a film.
Yep. I'm getting it. I'm getting what you're putting down now. Okay.
So the actual first instance of a sound effect happened on a recording, on like a not a podcast, but a storytelling over the radio. So basically how they did that, it wasn't an actual sound effect until later in the 20s. But in the early 20s and the early 1900s, what they would do is reference a sound. So basically they'd be like, did you hear that car driving up? And with no sound whatsoever.
No sound.
No sound.
It's just like, did you hear a car? And there's nothing.
Apparently there was like, is not backlash, but like questioning from the audience of like, we did not. We did not hear that car. Okay, so instead of, while they were trying to fix the referencing problem, because people were like, what do you mean by
questioning
that?
It?
They were questioning it, yeah. So to make the stories more fluent, they started having a sound development process. This started at CBC. Okay, so it started with, they hired Arthur and Ora Nichols. That's
a hard name.
Arthur and Ora Nichols. Yeah, it's a husband and wife team, and they were the first real sound developers and sound effect developers. So they had a few hits, and they had a lot of misses. Something that you would note that they did was the sheet of metal hanging to make thunder sounds.
Okay.
Yeah, so you would know them from that. But they also did a lot of misses. Like, they would have a stagehand laying under the microphone and, like, shuffling around, trying to make...
Oh, my gosh.
They were trying to make water sounds.
Water?
Yeah.
Why not just pour water in, like, a cup?
I don't know. I think it was supposed to be, like, waves crashing.
Why not just go to the beach?
Recording devices in the 1920s, that's why.
I mean, okay, yeah.
I'm not sure that they could get that close to water or wires or...
Yeah.
It's complicated. It's really complicated.
Really interesting, like, the, like, methods that people would, like,
what they
think
go
of.
through.
The legs, like, crawling under the table.
I think it's really interesting because I think we take it for granted the sounds just, like, footsteps in movies. But, like, you have to think, like, what does that sound like?
Yeah.
What other vague sound have I heard that sounds like that enough to make it in a movie?
And then you gotta make it sound just like that.
No, yeah.
You have to recreate it.
Those poor creators who are just in their daily life and then they'll hear a sound and they're like, that sounds
ow.
Exactly like tomato squashing.
I wouldn't be able to put that together.
No,
so
I wouldn't.
Props to them, man.
Yeah, good job.
Yeah, okay, so...
We applaud you here.
So that was hard enough, but like the hardest thing that they had reported being was live audio. So anything live broadcasted, because it had to be timed.
Yeah, and you can't like make noises other than...
Well, you can't make noises. That's also a very interesting point where a lot of... They're called Foley artists, and I'll get into that later and why they're called Foley artists. But Foley artists generally do it naked to not make noise.
I mean, that makes sense. So you don't have,
I get
your
it.
Clothes like sloshing around.
You're sloshing.
Sloshing.
Okay.
Moving around. You know what I'm trying to say here.
No, I get it.
Do they like still do that like nowadays, or do they wear like tight fitting clothes?
Well, they still do that, and it's still reported that they tend to do that, but a lot of the audio is actually like computer based instead of being
because
manual Foley artists.
Right, because like they've recorded it once
and then they just adjust it.
And they adjust it to what they need to. Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah,
Work smarter, not harder, kids.
Work smarter, not harder. So an example of them working on a live radio was Orville White. He was
I feel like I've heard that.
Orville White.
Orville,
that's his name.
That's such a fun name.
That's such an interesting name.
I want to name like a cat Orville. It sounds like a grumpy old man. I love it.
It really does. I'm getting a cat tomorrow.
I love that. Wait, what's its color?
It's like a gray white, and the people I'm getting it from have been calling it Taco, but I don't know if I'm sticking.
Taco.
I don't know if
had
Gray
tacos for
white
dinner
fits with
last
taco.
night.
That sounds.
Yeah.
But they were turkey
Maybe-
tacos.
They're
Maybe-
turkey. I've never
Like-
heard of a turkey taco.
Maybe
Okay,
I'll
well,
name
like
him
the
Orville.
it was turkey meat.
Well, like that.
It was turkey meat, and I
Maybe-
would have just eaten the thing if my sister hadn't told me because I hate the taste of turkey meat. I knew it tasted different, but I just didn't know what it was.
I think I'll name him Orville.
Name him or please name him.
I
Orville.
will. That's
Do
such a
it.
good
Name
name
him
for a
Orville.
cat.
Anyways, Orville White, he was a news broadcaster, and part of his like segment, like startup, was like introducing himself, and he had a button clicking sound. I'm not sure what that's about, but he did. His staff would hide the button from him, so it was a live broadcast. He was like, "Okay, I'm Orville White, and like give me the freaking button," and they just would give it at the last second that he needed to do it. But like that must be so panicky, just because like you need to stay
like-
calm in your voice, and you're like,
I need
"Where's
this.
the button? Where is the button?
Where are my
exactly?"
Where are all my tools?
Exactly. So other things that were struggling for them were their complaints and requests from the directors, just because.
Is it like not realistic enough?
Well, okay, so some of their complaints were very odd, like this water just doesn't sound wet enough.
That
was like a quote. That was a quote.
That sounds
The
just
rain
like a
does not
music.
sound wet enough. So they would have like water droplets as like the rain, and they were just like not wet enough. So they'd run like a faucet over it to sound. Yeah,
That's such a
That's so
movie
dramatic.
director
it's
thing.
very dramatic.
That's
Other
like-
It's
requests.
like me.
You would do that.
But the other requests that they would get would be like, can you make the sound of snow falling? Or
No.
The sound of sunlight.
No.
Which, when I think
That's
today
not a
of like the
sound.
sound.
I think of like shine like.
Another thing that they requested was very specific, was like, I'm not sure if I can say this, but like can you make the sound of a nude woman laying on a marble bench?
Why?
Not just a wooden bench.
Why?
A
marble
marble
bench.
I just want my only question for that
Is
person.
there even a sound for that?
Here's my only question for that. Why?
I want to know
What is the
story.
point?
I want to know what they were rating. Like,
I want to know if they did it or not.
I
I
wonder
wanna
if they
hear
used just
the
a nude
I
woman
wanna
laying
hear
on a
that
marble
sound.
bench.
Like, what sound would that be?
I don't know. A
What
clock?
sound makes you think a nude woman on a marble bench?
you could like move silk across the bench. Could they probably be
No.
wearing like a shawl or something?
No.
No, it's specifically
No.
nude.
No. No.
Okay.
Moving on.
So-
No.
so weird.
Anyways.
No, that makes me
Anywho.
uncomfortable.
So that was all done in real time up until like the mid 1930s, and then they started being able to record it. And by the time that they were able to record it, Jack Foley was introduced to the scene. Now this is where you get the reference Foley artist. He is known as the father of sound effects in film, and this is because he's the one who brought sound effects as a whole into the industry of film.
But weren't they already there?
Not sound effects.
They
so
would be like live or like just
No, not-
the music.
not even that. Like the sound effects were just for radio readings.
Okay, so it wasn't in TV, it was in the radio.
Yes, so this entire thing was through radio, and now they're
Okay.
bringing it into film.
Okay.
Jack Foley, so he was known as the father of
Okay.
sound effects. He worked in the film industry for 40 years,
Did you know that? Like,
never once credited for his work.
oh my
Never?
god.
No, okay. So basically the directors like didn't want people to know that there was like sound influence. They wanted them to think like it was all them.
It's
basically
all natural.
it's all natural sound.
Natural.
Yeah. They didn't want them to know because they thought it would
That's
like
rude.
break the
I'd
perception.
sue.
Yeah.
Like
That's just
well,
my
the thing
thing.
is like okay, so he clearly worked in the industry. He was clearly known. He was clearly paid for it.
And knowledgeable.
but the thing is like why, at that point like does it matter? that
Yes.
you're getting credited?
Yes.
Why?
I don't know, but yes. I don't have a reason right now,
One
but I will
interesting
later.
thing, there's like a box with a bunch of like recordings of sound effects.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like in use and hadn't been like upgraded or anything. And they were in use for films until like the digital age.
Mm-hmm.
It was really neat, like the old devices, and they were still being used.
Something like really interesting that you brought up just about the reoccurrence of sound. I do believe it's called the Wilcox laugh, and
The
you can
Wilhelm scream.
yeah, that
That was one of the sounds on
Really?
this device. Yeah.
Isn't it played in every like Pixar movie or something?
Yeah, I think so. It's in like every Pixar movie. It's in a bunch.
I know it's in
Star
Toy
Wars
Story and
ones.
stuff. Yeah.
And it's there's once in the Fellowship of the Ring and twice in Return of the King.
Like I get it, but why?
It's like everywhere, and it's like some people get angry about that. They're like, "Why is it in there?"
Because it's funny.
I think it's hilarious.
So I'm gonna start wrapping this up before they get on another tangent. So today we talked about the history of sound in movies, how it started, and how it got to where it is today. This has been Bree,
Abby.
and Thomas
talking you through scene by scene.